Oh, all right.
Hey, welcome back to the Cruxmen, episode 16. Had a little bit of a break. We'll get into that in a little bit. Looks like you got some things growing on your upper lip. I've for those fans out there, all two of you, you can probably see that I have gotten rid of my upper lip hair.
Chopped it.
Yeah, focusing on the bottom chin strap stuff now. It's just it had to go, man. It had to go.
It was time, huh?
It was time. It was time. It took my wife an
Uh,
entire meal. I mean, an entire meal. We sat down, we had dinner. I got up, walked over to her, I think to maybe get her plate or something like that, and she looks at me like sideways. She's like, "What did you do?" I was like, "What are you talking about?" She goes, "You shaved your mustache." I was like, "Yeah. Yeah, I did that hours ago. Thanks for noticing." She goes, "I think I miss it." I was like, "Well, the good thing about it is I can always grow it back, so it's not gone forever." But that was time to go. It was time to go. So,
I mean, the only reason I'm growing mine out is because when I do grow the chin out and whatnot, I think it just looks weird without. And it kind of, so I do that and then I kind of let it grow in and so it fills in, kind of like that look a little bit, line it up proper. It's like for the weekends, kind of like what I do.
yeah,
But I gotta let it. But the thing is, I can't just have like this little bit of whatever on my lip. It looks weird, so I gotta let it grow out full, and then it kind of fills in the blanks in like a couple of days. It's like the shadow with the stash.
you got a little bit of a Sebastian Maniscalco thing going on right now. It's just what I do. It's
You're breathing. No, your Wi-Fi is failing. But yeah, man, it's been a crazy couple weeks. I mean, went out to Ireland. Was there for like a good 4 days. Whatnot. Ireland. Went to Belfast. You know, I'm
how
sorry,
was
just
that?
landed in So what?
How was Belfast?
No, it was good. It was good. It ended up being good. So when I got there, I'm driving from the airport downtown. It's maybe, I don't know, about 9 in the morning, something like that. 8, 9 in the morning. Shit, I won't even say that. It was like 7 in the morning. Got there super early. Riding through the downtown, ghost town. I don't see not a soul on them streets. Instantly, my mom saying, "This place is trash." Just instantly in my mind, I'm like, you know what? This is gonna just be miserable. I'm like, you know what? I'm not, and I'm tired on top of that too, right? Get him, check in, and like, oh well, in her thick accent, I'm really like dialed in, trying to pay attention, like what she's saying. If I slow down my mind, it's like English, you know what I mean? And so she tells me, oh, breakfast is open in like about 15 minutes or whatnot. I'm like, all right, bet. So go get breakfast. Pleasantly surprised with the breakfast. I thought it was gonna be some BS continental joint. They had like the eggs, the sausage, the bacon. I was like, oh snap, this is outstanding. I'm thinking it's gonna be like some Brit type stuff, pork and beans, which they had. They had that, but it wasn't just that. It was actually, it was legit. It was good. But anyway, go take a nap because I'm hurting. It was a long flight. Go out later that evening. Get dropped off because I made an attempt to go over to the Titanic Museum. That place closed down around like 4. So we were like, all right, whatever. Let's just go hit the bars. Went out to the bars. Streets, the area we were at, we were right in the middle of it. Little did I know. Go out, hit this bar up, it's popping. Like it's like 4 and some change. People are out. It's groups of women everywhere. I'm like, what is going on? It's like I don't know what it is, but I've seen this before in other places, in particular Australia. The girl to guy ratio is ridiculous. I mean, there's just women. And I was like, yo, like in big groups, like attractive women. I was like, oh snap, okay. So I was like, all right, that's nice. And maybe it's just because I'm from out of town. Maybe that's just what it is. I don't know. But Belfast seemed to have like a lot more ladies than men in the places that we went to. Anyway, drank well, tons of Guinness, because that's just what I felt I had to do out there in Ireland. Had to have Guinness. And it was good. Belfast was good. The food I had good food. I ate fairly well. Nothing like, and it was crazy because, Belfast, there was guys from Glasgow that came there for a bachelor party, a little stag party. And I was like, oh, so this is like the place people come to? 'Cause, I mean, I've been to Glasgow, but I didn't realize that they would come there as opposed to like staying in Scotland. I don't know. I'm not sure what they're thinking of. But it was good. Yeah, it was a good deal. This one guy was super drunk. Not sure if he was getting married to a woman, but he was indeed the groomsman. He was the groom to be. Yeah, he was. Yeah, the groom. And he was going pretty hard. I wasn't really sure come the end of our conversation, the way he was interacting with folks, if he was marrying a female or a male. Not really sure.
As long as he was having a good time,
Oh, he was loving it. He was loving life. This dude, man, he was live. He kept buying rounds and all that. I was like, whatever.
Yeah.
But but ended up being there for a few days. Made a power move down to Dublin. Dublin kind of, it blew my expectation. I don't know. It reminded me of like a London. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know why I thought it would be smaller. Like Belfast made sense to me. Dublin was just bigger and it was busy. That was what I thought, getting out there. Dublin was pretty much what I expected and then some. Because it was a big town, but it was super busy. Like there was people, like very busy. Like it reminded me of London. So I thought that was cool. Went to the Jameson distillery. Got a breakdown of that. Was never like a big Jameson fan, but that place just kind of made me like, no, I think I'm gonna try some more Jameson. Sounds kind of like this, So
Okay.
did that. Went to the oldest pub in Ireland, especially Dublin in particular. Went there, had a pint or three. And but yeah, just ran around out there for a little bit. Never didn't make it to Galway. That was the next step, but ended up having to go. And then kind of came home for a couple days, burned out, went to Georgia for a day, and like I said, been in Hawaii the last 4 days or so. So it's good to be home. I'll tell you that. It's good to be home, take a break, relax. Yeah, I've been just burnt out. Really, really burnt out. So it was nice to be in Hawaii and just kind of sit and chill. We go there so often, it's just like whatever. So I didn't have like an agenda. I had no place to really be. I had nowhere to, nowhere to go, really. It's like I did that. Yeah. Got a homegirl out there. I just hung out with her for a bit. And then, man, that was it, man. It's good to be back, though. Shit, I can continue my shows and get some other work done until go do it again. So, yeah, man. Yeah. I think I got bit on my eyeball. But yeah, so you chopped the stash. I've been growing a stash. Well, been growing it for about a few weeks now. So what's the deal? What's popping on that end of things? Is there like a delay or something? There must be a delay. Hello? 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 Well, the beauty is that this could all be edited out. Indeed. I'm gonna tell you guys what he's saying right now. I got nothing. Fuck. Let me try a different Wi-Fi. ... We'll put this in the archive for later use. He had to jump. So what I'm gonna do is stop now. Because it's kind of like a waste. Or you know what? Fuck it. Let's just keep recording while he figures out things on that end. So, yeah, man. Went to Hawaii. Had a good time. I don't know. For some reason, my energy was just super low. I was just worn out. Uh, I got there, went to a luau with my homegirl. Her cousin had a birthday party, threw a big party, right? BYOB. She bought bottles and bottles of soju, which I requested. We were on the same page, though. I went hard in the damn paint. So then after the luau, I was paralyzed from the neck down, borderline feeling like, Leonardo DiCaprio in Wolf on Wall Street when he was on them lewds, trying to get back to, trying to get back home. He just threw himself down the threw himself down them stairs. He's like, yeah, I drove home in like, perfect fashion, da 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 da. Real life shit
Miraculously,
show.
not a scratch on the car.
Yeah. Oh, it was great. So yeah, that was me all of Sunday. Very biblical. Body hurt, painful. Barely even made it out the bed. Did that 2 days in a row. Managed to get my ass up and at 'em on Monday. Worked out a little bit. I don't know what's been going on with me though. I think some of these supplements have been zapping me of my energy. So
I feel like I feel so. I don't know what it is. Like I actually feel like I have a lot of energy,
hmm.
and in the mirror, I think I'm seeing improvements. But as I'm walking around, I feel like I'm not. I feel like a tub of lard.
Oh,
I don't
well,
know
the
what's
mirror doesn't
going on.
lie.
I don't know. It might.
Well, it does add 10 pounds.
I don't trust it. That's the camera.
That was the camera. That's right. Yeah, I decided not to stop. Kept recording with Solo Dolo.
Okay. It's all good.
It'll all be chopped out anyway, maybe, possibly.
It's all good.
But yeah, so
Well,
yeah, like I said, it's a good deal. So that's what I was saying before. Uh, I'm growing a caterpillar on my lip, more so to get me into a more of a industrial age type of a feel for the summer. It's kind of like ass backwards. Usually I do this for like the winter, start growing it out for the post birthday kind of a thing. But I'm like, you know what?
mm-hmm.
Changing it up a little bit.
Yep.
I'm gonna go ahead and grow out the stash. Let the face kind of like a little bit. And let's see how I feel at the end of the day. Like, kind of like what you said. I can always chop it off.
Yeah. See, mine had to go. Mine had to go. It was. And normally I make that decision to chop it off when I messed up as I'm like trimming it or something. But this time I was just tired of it. I was tired. Like I have really coarse hair, and
Mhm.
so unless I'm letting it grow over my lip, it will grow into my lip, and it just
Ah,
it's like constant irritation. So it's time to go. But
in the main grounds.
well,
Yeah, man.
I'll tell you, these last couple of weeks, this is so I'll start to dig into the topic here. These last couple of weeks have been difficult, to say the least. But in through the difficult scenario, which, like I said, I'll get into, gave me an idea for a topic for us to discuss. So I'll transition into that this way. So the lovely young lady that I'm rocking on my forehead right now is my niece, affectionately known as Siri, and she passed away in a car accident 2 weeks ago. 15 years old, and it's just been absolutely devastating to my family. Um, I know that you know all these things because I've already told you about it, which is why we took a couple-week break, because I just needed to be here for my family and do those things, because she was like a daughter to me, and I have two daughters. Um, but it got me thinking, like, we need to get back into the Cruxmen and do what the Cruxmen's about, when it comes to this, and it's talking about real life things, real life events. talk about things that people have to go through. And I think one way to kind of kick that off is just getting into a little bit of the 5 stages of grief as they relate to death. Um, so every death is different. You lose a distant relative, you're like, oh man, that sucks. Especially if they were young, you're like, they were gone too soon, whatever. You lose a great grandparent, that dies at almost 100, and you're like, well, you know what? They lived. I'm gonna miss them, if you're close to them, but they lived a hell of a life. They got their years. But to lose someone who is not only very close to you, but also very young and related, um, it's devastating. I mean, it really is. It's devastating, and it has a ripple effect throughout all sorts of things. So I'll start by saying even this. I asked my wife very point blank. I was like, what does it take to get back to normal? She's like, well, what do you mean? I'm like, well, like we still have a life, right? We still have a household. We still have careers. We still have our kids. You know, even as something as the dogs. We got 2 dogs. We have all these things that we got to really still stay on top of. So how do we get back to that without feeling guilty? This is something I've noticed over the last couple of weeks. Is I've seen it with my mother-in-law, my sister-in-law, who is the one who lost her daughter. Um, and it's like people were almost felt guilty to laugh. They felt guilty to have a moment of like happiness for whatever reason. And I get it. I mean, it's been difficult. My wife and my mother-in-law have been handling all the affairs. Obviously, I wouldn't expect my sister-in-law to. She's just been completely flipped upside down by this entire thing. And that goes hand in hand with what I was saying, though, because she also has 4 other kids, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And so 2 of them still live at home. And so she's got to find a way to pull herself together for her other children, right? She's a single mom, and that's okay. But that means that she doesn't have another adult, another half there to rely on for strength. I mean, if it wasn't for my wife and her mom, I'm not sure how she would get through all this. Although, that being said, the outpouring of support and love from the community was pretty incredible. And we had a big bike run for Siri as we escorted. So I found out something very interesting about my niece. She's half native Wallapai Indian, and apparently is a descendant of a warrior chief,
Mm-hmm.
which made her a princess. And so she had a full blown princess ceremony,
Mm.
death ceremony. And so we, as a bunch of biker community, a big biker community, we actually escorted her body up to Peach Springs to the reservation. And there was, I think, over 150 motorcycles that rode in her honor. It was
Yeah.
pretty incredible to be a part of. And that's just the motorcycles. The rest of the procession, the cars, hundreds. Yeah. So,
Yeah.
and not just because she was a princess, but that's just how much she was loved, and the amount of support the community has really been putting out there. So anyway, man, that's been my last 2 weeks. It's been and what's insane is that that's not all my last 2 weeks have been. I also uh, had to go out to Jacksonville for work, for a few days. Came back, helped out where I could, tried to stay out of the way, and then went out to Orlando for a conference and came back, flew out to, or rode out to Kingman, Arizona, which is where the services were being had. And I'll use that as a good segue into how people deal with deal with grief over something like this. Is I told my wife, I was like, babe, as much as I want to be here, I feel like it's better for me to not be here, right? Because as much as I'm hurting, I'm gonna deal with it my way. And me and my wife are two completely different individuals, and she's just busy doing death certificates and like all the shit that you just never want to have to think about when it comes to burying a child, your child, or your niece, or like
Anymore.
so doing all these things, for my sister-in-law, her sister, um, and that's keeping her preoccupied, right? But I'm also like still in the moment. Like we still have kids in the house and a relationship and stuff like that. And I'm sure some people would look at that and be like, "Oh man, like how could you be selfish in this particular time of need?" And I'm like, "Well, it's not me being selfish necessarily. I do think me leaving was a little bit selfish, and I even told my sister-in-law that. But I also felt like being here, I was in the way, and me being here wasn't going to change the fact that Siri was now dead. So I opted just to do what I already had scheduled for work and support from afar. But yeah, I mean, there's probably no right answer, honestly. But yeah, just a super fucked up situation that the family is going through right now. So, but
Yeah. Yeah, there's I don't know. I don't, for me,
let's
if I know
go
for
ahead.
me, if
Go
I
ahead.
was, man, this is just me, I have no idea, but I know how I've handled similar issues, whether it be loss of person or it's loss of whatever, you know what I mean? Millionaires turned into poor people overnight. That's something you got to deal with too. You know what I mean? So, I mean, like, how are people handle new situations, circumstances? We all go through our process and whatnot. I would probably be more like you / your wife. You know what I mean? I'd probably just go dark, consume myself with work, distract myself all day, not talk about it, be the last thing I want to fucking do. And that's it. Just go numb for a while. You know what I mean?
So that's
And really just kind
yeah,
of internalize what the fuck I have to deal with now. You know what I'm saying? Like, this is the new norm.
yeah.
So get with the fucking program, like ASAP. Because right now, me fighting it doesn't change anything, you know? So I would need to wake the fuck up, like, and really like handle it, deal with it,
Mm.
process it ASAP. Because I don't want to stay here. Shit sucks.
Yeah.
So, but I mean, like, how long? That process it's
Well,
different for
well,
everybody, especially if you've never
and
dealt with
that's
it
just it.
before.
That's just it. And what another shit part of this process that I realized is that like paid downtime, like bereavement stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Every company's different. Every state is different. My company is really awesome to their people, but what I came to realize that you can cut a family tree in 100 different ways,
Mm-hmm.
and bereavement is an option to get paid downtime for that.
Mm-hmm.
But nieces and nephews are not on the list.
I didn't think so. It has to be immediate, like
Well, it
wife,
says
kid.
immediate, but I mean that can go all the way up to
Yeah,
grandparent, great grandchild. I mean, like
yeah, but
there's
that's
things
they
and
don't
it goes
even
all over the place, like except
they don't
growing we're
even
growing up in
accept. But I'm saying, but they don't even accept. Like, say you aren't even blood with the person, but they raised you essentially. But the paperwork doesn't say that they're like your actual legal whatever. But that is like your mom or that's your pops or that's your grandparent, whatever, they'd be
Right.
like, well, no, just because the paperwork doesn't say that that is considered to be your immediate family member,
No,
So yeah, and
it's
cause
trouble.
yeah, it's
Yeah,
stupid, but that's
it does
definitely the
suck
game that they play.
because you knew Siri. Your
Hmm.
daughter and her were friends for a summer at least,
Hmm.
but Siri was like a daughter to me. She spent at least 2 weekends a month with me at my house or at our place out in Arizona or camping, down in California. So yeah, man, so the fact that I had to, and so I guess to say that was another factor as to why I opted to go and still work
Hmm.
because I still got to make money. There's still bills to pay. There's still a life beyond her death, and that's hard to accept because another hard thing to accept in all this is walking around and expecting people who know but aren't involved in the family like that to be on that level. You know what I mean?
Mm.
Like there's people, that I work with, because I had to leave my conference in Orlando a little bit early to come back for the services. They're like, "Oh, why do you got to leave?" I'm like, "Well, so now I got to tell them the story." And they're
Yeah.
like, "Oh man, yeah, that sucks. Sorry to hear that." But anyway, so there I was at this bar getting hammered with this, and they go, they're going about their day, and I'm sitting there thinking like everyone's an asshole. Cause I'm like, how come you guys aren't as sad as I am? And I'm like, that like
Yeah.
that projecting aspect of, of what you're going through.
Mm.
Um, Fortunately, most of the people that I know and keep in my close company, um, have better situational awareness than that, but it all
Yeah.
goes into it. It all goes into what are your expectations of other people? What are your
Exactly.
expectations of your employers? What's your expectations of your spouse? You know what I mean?
I know, absolutely.
And
Shit.
and and and
Yeah.
everyone's ability to compartmentalize
It's
in this situation.
that shit's rough, man. Cause like for me, I don't what the fuck do you say? In any situation, right? Especially like a death, you talk on someone's child. Everything in me I wanted to say, but I was like, luckily I talked to you prior to, so I was like, hopefully he has transmitted what I've said to her somehow. But I'm like, what do you say? You know, and for me, like, the type that I am, I really don't need anyone to say shit to me. Just leave me the fuck alone. You know what I mean? Or do whatever, do you, but don't front. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Mainly because, and I think it does depend on the person too, right? There's some people that I feel like is genuine. If they tell me, yo, I'm sorry for your, condolences or whatever the case might be, you know, I know that they're not being, they're taking time out of themselves to say something, you know what I mean? Even though they don't have to, but some, it's just lip service. And the thing is, like, I know that, so it's like, don't even fucking go there because I know it's not genuine, and I really don't care. You know what I'm saying? And I'd
Well,
rather just not.
or even worse, they try to make it about them.
And that's which is why I think it's lip service because then it suddenly goes back to, well, I. It's like, you know what? I didn't come here to have therapy session for you. You know what I mean? Like,
Mm-mm.
I don't need this right now. And this is why that's why I opt usually 9 times out of 10 is be solo dolo. But yeah, that
So
that expectation
that's
piece you said, that I think that's huge because it's like, well, what do you, which is why, like, this is why I don't even tell people shit 9 times out of 10 because I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear,
yeah.
I don't want to hear anything. You know what I mean? Just,
That's why I told you 2 weeks ago when I called you,
yeah.
and I came down. We met up in SoCal,
Mm.
and I think I told you something to the extent of, I don't need to hear anything. I don't want to be alone, but I don't want to be around people either.
Hmm.
And so we hopped on the bikes, you know, and we went for a rip, and we were gone for several hours, and it was great. I mean, to just be alone on my bike, but not alone because there's my best buddy on his bike too. So we were together. I was with somebody, but I was alone in my own thoughts, I guess, if that makes sense, right?
Yeah.
I didn't want to
Yeah.
talk to anybody. I didn't want anyone to talk to me. I really just needed, and that's kind of how I've been. But I have an insane ability to compartmentalize things too. I mean, when I was in Orlando, I had multiple speaking parts in front of, I don't know, about 500 people. It's not a lot of people, but a decent group.
Mm-hmm.
And my ability to just compartmentalize all this stuff, get into that zone so I can do what that needs to be done, and then get back where I can help out here. And but I did the same thing at my sister-in-law's house over the weekend, and I was there, I was present, but I wasn't up her ass. You know what I mean? Like I was, oh my god, I'm so sorry about Siri, and oh, we could have done so much more, and too soon and too young, and all that.
Time to get you kicked out.
Yeah, I don't know that she would even need that stuff. Like she's a very stoic individual. I think that if she wanted that, it was funny. One of the things that makes me sorry, I'm going a complete 180 right now. One of the things that disgusts me the most, and I don't mean to smile as I'm saying this, but I'm getting into a funny story, was one of the things they talked about Siri at her celebration of life.
Mm-hmm.
And a couple of her friends, and because she was a softball player, phenomenal softball player actually, starting pitcher on the varsity team as a freshman. And I found out she hit her very first home run the afternoon before she passed away.
Mm.
So, and there's an awesome video of her entire team right as she hits a dinger. And apparently, it's not on the film, but apparently one of her friends asked her, like, Siri, what you about to do? And I guess she turned and she's like, I'm gonna hit a motherfucking dinger. And then she went up there, did
Did
it,
it.
dinged it out of the park. And so she's rounding the bases. Her entire team goes out to home plate, to catch her as she comes across home plate, and they're just cheering. She's a freshman. Do 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 do. She's a freshman. Like on this varsity team. But my sister-in-law too. I mean, and she certainly has a sense of humor and how she goes about things. But apparently, Siri's uh gastrointestinal issues was something she used to her advantage. And one of her coaches got up there and just told a beautiful story about her, but then he ended it with, as she got out of the car, she lifted a cheek, let one rip, and said, "That's for you, coach." And
Yeah.
I say all that to say that even my sister-in-law at the celebration of life, where due to the extent of her injuries in this car accident, it was a closed casket, was able to
Mm.
laugh, and just really appreciate the love that was being shared about her daughter. So
Siri was awesome,
uh,
man.
yeah,
Yeah,
she was.
she was awesome. I know. I mean, granted, like I saw her maybe the handful of times I got to see her, but I know she reminded me a lot like mine. I think that's why they hit it off so well.
Mm-hmm.
Both like talk a lot of shit. Very independent, very strong-willed, strong-minded little women. So it just to me, I remember telling her, I was like, "Yeah, I think you and my kid are gonna be probably good buddies." And then to
Yeah.
see that come into fruition that summer, I was like, that just made sense to me. You guys are kind of like two peas in a pod. You know what I mean? It's just how
Out
they
of
talk.
Anave had a cameo or two in her video that was put
Oh
together.
yeah.
Yeah.
No, I haven't even
Uh,
told her yet. I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna wait till
oh man.
later. I don't know if she would even. I was like, I figured I'll do that face to face, not over the phone. But
Yeah.
but no, man, it's so. I don't know. There's haven't been to a few of these funerals. Like I said, it hasn't been anything like super. Like my grandfather, the first Charles, he's about as close as it's gotten for me. However, I don't know. In my head, the samurai, they visualize their death. It helps them kind of deal with that whole idea. Instead of trying to clinging on for life, they just visualize it if like it's inevitable, it's coming, and just kind of like that's how I'm gonna go out with honor. Da da da. I kind of think about that with like even like with my fam, like what's it gonna be like, kind of a thing. I mean, there's nothing to prepare you
Yeah.
for it at all. Even our own fucking death, like we don't know. I was watching this
Yeah.
show actually with Ricky Gervais called Afterlife on Netflix. I just finished it coming out here. In that series, it's like a it's a 4 season series. It's got like 6 episodes a pop, like 30 minutes, in and out kind of stuff. But his wife dies, and he spends the entire show dealing, like grieving, going through that whole process, and he becomes like this super asshole in the beginning. He's like, you know what? I'm out. He just wants to commit suicide left and right. He's like, I think I want to do it. Tries to, but like something keeps pulling him back and preventing him from doing it. And long story short, after just kind of talking with different folks and he starts realizing, like, like this other lady, he goes to the grave. This other lady, she sits there every day. This older lady, she's there to talk to her husband, who had died some years back, and they start kind of going back and forth, talking, exchanging experiences and whatnot. And she's like, yeah, but like, she focuses on the time that they had together, and that was something that Tony, the Ricky Gervais's character, for him it's still fresh, like it just happened. He couldn't see that, like, well, we had a good time. So like he starts getting these little nuggets from folks that have also kind of going through their process. This last season, he talks to these little kids got cancer, and the kid's like, yeah, are you gonna be coming around more often? He's like, yeah, maybe. He's like, you know what? I'll keep coming around until you get better. He's like, yeah, either that or when I go to heaven. He's like, oh shit. I mean? So like everyone's kind of, everyone's got like this reality. And so he's kind of like, how bad is my life really? When yes, unfortunately I lost my wife, whatever, but it doesn't give me a reason to be like an asshole. I could do good for myself, for others, and kind of find a reason to live beyond that, instead of bringing everybody's
So
life miserable, I can bring them joy and live better for my wife, because that's what ultimately she wanted him to do. And all these videos that she had, 'cause she had cancer, breast
so
cancer
so
took her out.
I
But yeah,
think
good show.
that's the and I think what you're discussing there at the end was the last stage, which is acceptance.
Yeah.
So let me run through these real quick, and with either with a show that you've seen that relates, or a personal experience or whatever, because I don't know that these necessarily have to go in order. These are just the 5 stages that are recognized. So
Agreed.
denial, anger, bargaining, which I had to read about a little bit because I didn't
Mm-hmm.
fully understand that one. Depression, which I don't think that hits everybody,
Mm.
right? Like full blown depression, and then acceptance. So like
Hmm.
for me, there was never. I'll just I'll go with it in order, and I'll use obviously my most personal uh, situation, I guess, scenario. I never had denial. So there was never like a stage where, and I'll say it. I mean, I'll say it publicly. I was laying in bed. My wife was in Southern California for work, and it was at 11 o'clock around there. I had tried to call her to say, "Hey, I'm climbing into bed. Glad you made it to SoCal," because she had drove down. Uh, from Vegas. Hey, girls are asleep. Just normal, good night stuff. And she didn't answer, and I was like, that's odd. That I assumed she was awake because she normally would text me at least that she's going to bed. And she said, "Hey, I can't talk right now. I'm on the phone with my sister. Siri was in a car accident." I was like, "Oh fuck, okay." But I immediately went to like my optimistic mindset of, okay, all I know is that she was in a car accident. And then I got another little, nugget like, yeah, it sounds like it was pretty bad, but her sister was at the hospital where Siri was taken. They're just waiting to hear from the doctor. And I don't know the timeline exactly. I want to say about 30 minutes. I think it was around 11:30. I just got a text from my wife said Siri is dead. And I think if there was any little bit of denial, it was in that statement, reading that text, that like no, right? Like, because my
Absolutely.
optimistic side was like, she's gonna be fine. Maybe she'll be a little banged up or whatever, but she'll be okay. And that's just because I was not prepping myself in that moment to get a she's dead, just 3 words, Siri is dead text. So beyond that immediate moment, I skipped right past denial and got into, I'm not sure. As we go through them, maybe I'll figure out. Anger was certainly one of them, but
I mean, shit. I'll tell you like this: I go to denial in every situation of loss I've ever had. Denial is definitely part of that process for me. Even when you called me, I was like, "What the fuck?" Like it was for me. On some level, I'm thinking like this is some type of fucked up joke. You know what I mean? Like in my mind, even after the phone call, it wasn't real. You know what I'm saying? Like that
yeah,
to me, I'm fighting once again, not dealing with like that's the reality. How did a couple weeks ago you're crushing it playing softball, and now you're calling me, you're telling me this? Still not like just not the reality that I was willing to accept for like a while. To be
yeah.
honest, you know what I mean? Like that whole weekend was kind of wild. So that definitely it's definitely a thing for sure. You know, um, because it's just hard to imagine. You know, like because you start having these questions, like, no, like, no, what, like, no, really,
Well,
and
and
you
then you
keep
start
thinking it's
imagining,
like someone's gonna
yeah,
respawn. You know what I'm saying? Almost like that. You know, like, oh yeah, okay, whew, missed that one. You know what I'm saying? Like that kind of a thing.
yeah.
It's not until it's like final, then it's like, wow, like you have to really like start moving toward that acceptance piece where it's like this is it.
That's what's weird about it, right? Is like, I'm not sure, maybe this falls under the denial category, but and I'm not sure, but even I will tell you, even now for me it doesn't feel real.
Mm,
Being at their house and her not being there, being, just all the stories that are being told, and the fact that the weekend prior, you know, my girls were sitting in the car with her while we're working on our property out in Arizona. We're working on our property, and Siri was watching the girls, and they're just sitting in the car, AC blasting music, got, Cheetos, cheese all over their face and fingers. I mean, just doing what they do. And then for it to go from being that to her being gone, um, the some of the hardest parts for me have been imagining exactly how it went down.
man,
So,
yeah,
and I'll save those details. I don't want to release that publicly, but it just gruesome and disgusting.
man.
The details that have been shared with me so far. So
And that man,
anyway,
don't even like. I mean, this is just me. I mean, I guess I think that helps with. I guess some sort of processing and
acceptance.
acceptance,
Yeah.
whatnot. But like, it's all, I don't know. I'm not to put them in the same boat. You know what I mean? Because it's not the same. But it's kind of like if like your partner steps out on you. People want to know the details because it helps them to process it and have some kind of closure or whatnot. I don't know. For me, in like my mind, I'm like, I don't really want to know. You know what I'm saying? Because then I'm gonna replay that shit in my head. Like if my imagination gets loose,
Yeah.
I don't think that helps me. I think it takes me back to square one because now I'm imagining that shit over and over and over, as opposed to just being like, just leave it out. Like I don't need to know. You know what I mean? I don't
That's
know. I guess
yeah.
everybody deals with it different. You know, for me, I would rather not
When
with
your
the
brain your
visuals.
brain runs wild though with trying to process how it goes down. I mean, the fact that
Mm,
you could get ejected from a vehicle going the speed they were going, and it would cause enough injury to take your life.
mm,
I don't know why I've never thought about it that way. I just, it was a matter of fact thing. Like, oh, you get ejected from the car, whatever. Like, you're probably gonna die. Like,
mm.
but to sit there and have to think about it, and I would be, I think, given this particular conversation, I'd be doing a disservice if I did not mention the other girl. There was 5 kids in the vehicle. I found out that there was 2 girls, Siri being one of them, and 3 boys. Um, the other girl, uh, dead before any responders got there. Siri was taken to the hospital, and the 3 boys are all still alive currently.
Mm.
One is fighting for his life, and the other two include the driver, are going to be fine. Um, Physically, mentally, and this is another piece that it's hard to talk about because this is a good segue into the anger part. Immediately, I want to be like, what the fuck was this 16-year-old doing in that high-powered supercar? No one wearing seatbelts, so I'm told. And oh, by the way, in the state of Arizona where they were driving, I don't think he was legally allowed to have kids under the age of 18 in his vehicle.
Mm. Permanent stuff. Huh?
Right, permit stuff. So, you know, I mean, it's one thing to go hot rodding around. I did it too when I was 16. My first car was an 82 Firebird. I definitely went hot rodding around, but I did it by myself, you know. I
That's
never, I ne- it was always in the back of my mind, like, don't do something dumb that could cause injury to somebody else.
yeah. That's I don't know, man. That one's tough. Granted, you could easily go ham on this kid for so many reasons, for in so many ways. You know what I mean? For making poor decisions, da da da. Da. But we've all done that shit. We just
We
didn't.
have.
It just didn't become anything like this. What this kid's
Well,
gonna have to deal with, like for the rest of his life. How he, if he, he survives to say he makes a full recovery. Let's just say, and if he doesn't, he's gonna be the burden of that. What his actions caused. You know what I mean? Like to his friends. You know what I mean? That alone is torture. That's hell.
well,
You know what I mean?
I've heard, and again, I'll keep a lot of details to myself, but I've heard so many things already, and to the point that I feel bad for him
Yeah. And he's what,
because he
16? He's 15, 16?
16,
Yeah.
16 years old. He's going to get tried as an adult,
Mm,
first of all.
yeah.
So he's got that to deal with, not to mention just the mental battle
Anguish.
of
Yeah, man.
knowing that you killed 2 of your friends.
And then their families are
And
looking at you crazy because you're the
yeah,
one. Like
because you're
you're
the
the
one.
one. You know?
And I was angry for a minute, and then I immediately was like, fuck, this poor kid. Because like you said, like I said earlier too, I did stupid shit.
Mm-hmm.
How many times in life have we rolled the dice, for the thrill, whatever the thrill is, whatever it may be in that moment,
Mm-hmm.
you know, um, and been fortunate enough to survive, because you never think that that's going to be you, right? Superman complex. So,
Yeah.
so anger. So denial, I kind of skipped over. Anger was very brief. And then I had this, how I think, kind of big worldly view of, me being angry at this kid.
Yeah.
Once again, changes nothing. And then I immediately put myself in his shoes and thought, holy shit, this kid he is fucked for the rest of his life. And I mean, mentally, uh, if there's any physical, long-term damage, then that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, if he gets tried as an adult and they consider it premeditated,
Mm.
premeditated
Manslaughter.
vehicular manslaughter, because how he was driving and the speed at which he was going,
Mm-hmm.
he is fucked the rest of his life.
Yeah. One bad decision. I mean, the repercussions are brutal. You know.
So then we get into bargaining, and I'm gonna have to remind myself exactly what it was. Like, oh, that's what it was. This one particular sentence about it. We want to believe that if we act in particular ways, we will feel better.
Yeah.
And how that spoke to me was, and again, I even brought this up to my wife. I tend to live this way anyway. Like, you never know when you're gonna have that last moment with somebody.
It's a karma thing.
Right. Well, I mean, even I told my wife, this morning, because she had to drive down to Southern California for work, and I told her, I was like, like, it's hard to imagine you walking out the door and never coming back. I'm like, but doesn't that just really, in the light of what's happened to our family, really speak to the fact that we should love each other unconditionally all the time?
Mm.
Like, not let stupid little bullshit like be the reason why. I'll put myself in the hot seat. I'm a Harley rider. I'm a biker. If we get into a spat, as well as I do, I'm more the type I'm going to go clear my head. So I'm going to get on the bike and I'm going to go for a rip. And once I've cleared my head and I can, come back and speak calmly and intelligently, on the rare occasion that this would even happen with my wife and I go hauling down the road, not at a stupid speed, not riding in an ignorant fashion, but I'm cruising down the road and someone runs a red light in a semi truck and takes me out.
Mm-hmm.
The guilt she's going to have for how I left the house, and the fact that she didn't give me a hug or a kiss or tell me she loves me, regardless of being frustrated,
Mm-hmm.
will haunt her the rest of her life. So for me, the bargaining was letting my kids get away with things that I normally wouldn't let them get away with.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, me too. Like, because of things that I've had to experience, that for me, I make it a point to do the things, say the things, regardless of how I feel. You know what I mean? So I try to make sure I tell people, hey, like even like with my kid, I tell her, I love her every time I talk to her. I try to get outside of myself to make things right. I'm not gonna dig my heels in and have to be right. Like, I don't really give a shit. Because for me, I always consider, like, okay, if I'm on my deathbed, how does this play out? How much do I give a shit? You know what I mean? If this person was to leave tomorrow and be gone, you know what I mean? Like, how would that change the game? You know what I mean? So I don't try not to live with any kind of regret because of shit like this. For me, like, when you call me, that was just like another reminder of why I do what I do. You know what I mean? Because there's, if people are gone, I don't want that on my soul. You know what I mean? I like to
Yeah.
live light. You know what I mean? When it comes to like that, even my kid losing shit, forgetting stuff, whatever. I get pissed at it, but I'm like, you know what? Whatever. She's a kid. I'm not gonna sit there and let that be the end all be all. Why our relationship disintegrates because I got whatever. You lost your headphone charger or whatever. It could be replaced. Something stupid.
Yeah.
So, but yeah,
Well, and that's just it, right? Because that can be replaced,
yeah.
but
But like
but
Siri
life
cannot.
life cannot.
And then
Exactly.
and it's shit like that though. It's just like you know, and this is the hard part, right? Because at this point for me in life, I have grown to appreciate and accept everything that yesterday to me was the worst fucking thing in my fucking world that I hated. And it was more so me like, yo, what the fuck? Like, why am I going through this, all this other shit? However, I knew it was something that I needed. And looking back on it, I can appreciate it for what it's done to me. You know what I mean? And it has matured me, made me grow up, it made me see things differently. You know what I mean? It just made me stronger, more accepting of the world and how this thing plays out. Period. Dot. You know. It's hard to, and they said that even in this show. There's nothing. What comes out of this can go one or two ways. You know what I'm saying? Yes, this happened, and it is something that everyone's having to deal with. You know, but like everything else, how we proceed, it's a pivotal moment. You know what I mean? It's like shit. You look at it, some people, something happens to them, they turn to like drugs, hardcore, game over. Like I'm done, I'm tapped. Like this, I can't. They couldn't bounce back. It just devastated them. Some folks, they say, you know what, I'm gonna commit to doing something better. I'm gonna take this as an opportunity. I don't know. Everybody does something different. I don't, even like with me, I think about just me, like the shit that I've had to go through. I was just like, you know what, I had to live for my kid. I can't check out. That's what I said that to my. You can't check out. You have to be here for her. So if you can't do it for you, be here for her. Wake the fuck up. And I had to, and I'm talking. This is the conversation I had for months. Wake the fuck up. You know what I mean? Because it wasn't nothing quick. It's a process. Like we're going through right now. We're
Oh
talking
yeah.
about this shit. You know what I mean? However, once the commitment was 100% there, it's like, man, you dodged a bullet. You know. So, and like you said, sister-in-law, she still got munchkins left. You know, I mean, like shit. You're saying like, hey, by the way, you got other kids here. Wake up. It's not like you can't just do that. You know,
No.
but like folks galvanizing because of this could. This is what I'm saying in terms of like you're talking about down the road. You know what I mean? Time has processed. Everything's kind of people have healed on some level. It could become this thing where it's like before we were operating like this, but this situation happened and now we're like tighter than ever, kind of a thing. You know what I'm saying? Like stuff like
That's
that is what I'm
that's
saying.
how that's how I foresee this going. I mean, I've not always been, for lack of better words, I've not always been extremely welcoming.
Mm,
And that's not just to my sister-in-law and her children. I just mean like in general,
mm,
right? I mean, you know me pretty well. I'm not looking for extra people in my life.
mm,
So, and it's not that I, turn a blind eye to folks. I vibe with people I vibe with, and I don't vibe with people I don't vibe with, right? And it's just been a constant thing. But now you're right. In light of this, again, it's just an eye-opening situation where I wish I had more time with Siri. Um, but I also realize that I have more time. I do have more time with my other three nephews and niece
mm,
in that family. Now, of all of them, I was probably closest to Siri. Just her age, the other two, her two older or, college age, so I know them, but they were already at college. They didn't come around as much. They were off in college and stuff like that these last several years. So, Siri, I've been, yeah. Anyway, I do have more time. So, real quick, I want to touch on these depression and acceptance. And this is just for me. I know depression speaks to a lot of different people in different ways. When I think of depression, I think of like people who need medication to get through the day. That's not me. For me, I think I'll have bouts of depression, but it will basically be not memories of her, but the thought of her as we're creating new memories and she's not here. Right? And so I think that'll be difficult and just depressing, and maybe that therefore categorizes itself as a depressive state if I allow myself to go there even for a moment. And acceptance, I don't know what that looks like. I really don't, because it's just hard to accept that, which maybe means that denial is kind of intermittently strung throughout all the stages, until you get to acceptance. But even once you get there, you can go back to any other stage at any given time. I mean, you could finally get to this stage of acceptance and you're at peace with it. And when I say all these things, I'm thinking about my sister-in-law finally maybe coming to terms and getting it and being at peace. But who knows, some teenager in a supercar go flying past her on the interstate and immediately send her spiraling into anger again, because she will associate that with how her daughter died. So, I mean, there's these 5 stages that are listed and talked about. Obviously, I don't think that means that that's everything that people go through. It's a great starter list, but I also think that you can hit every single one of these stages multiple times in no particular order, to include once you've gone through the described acceptance stage.
Yeah.
Something can spark a memory and you go right back into some other thing.
I mean, it's like anything else, you can relapse for sure.
Yeah.
You mean? I mean, and that's kind of like like it's almost like a checking in, almost like how healed are you? I guess you could say. I know that's something I used to always kind of see. Like, I'm like, yeah, no, I'm good. Just because life is gonna go pretty well, whatever. Yeah, I'm straight. But then that thing happens and I just lose my shit. Apparently, I'm not. It's not until the day where it's just like, okay, it happens, but I'm kind of like not even phased by it. It's kind of like, oh shit, yeah. It's like, like a lot of shit. Like I could talk about a lot of stuff and not go there emotionally. It's just, this is what happened to me, and it's just, like I said, like there's things I can say like now. I'm like, it's the best thing that ever happened to me, just because I have accepted it. I've seen the things that I've done to overcome it have benefited me in an immense way. So I think that's where it's like, yeah, you accept it, but then this is what you've done to turn around. It's hard to accept it when it's also, you turned it into a negative on top of,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? So like, yeah, like I was saying before, I think if everyone galvanizes, they come closer. The kids that are left over, they're like, man, like the love game went to like another level. You know what I mean? Things that we didn't, it was kind of like this, going through the motions before. Now it's just like, hey, like we're focused, we're getting this thing together. Everyone's doing better, whether it be in series name or whatever. It's just like there's something that's just changing, folks. People have taken that and been like, you know what? Fuck, man. This time is precious. Let's change the way we do business. Let's get together. Let's do these things. Let's have these conversations. I think that Not to say it's gonna happen overnight, but that looking back, it's like, man, that was a crucial turning point in this whole family, in this whole dynamic, you know. And
Yeah.
now everyone's living more present. Little stuff, trivial stuff that before used to be like this an automatic argument, not even a thing no more. People just kind of brush it off. Psh, man, whatever, man. It's all good. You know, still love you. You know what I mean? See you tomorrow. You know, it's just stuff like that. You know, people start realizing how precious time is because, you know, it's coming for us all. But something like this from someone so young and the potential she had to just go do amazing things, it gets cut short like this because everyone's scrambling for like, why? What was the reason? You know, and think about it, it's like right now is this is where people are, you know, you get to write that reason in whatever that, I'm not saying like, you know, how do we turn this into something bigger, better in her name kind of a thing,
Yeah.
you know, as opposed to this is the point where everything completely went to shit. You know what I'm saying? I don't know. I mean, in my head, like that's the
No.
only, you talk about that optimism. That's me. It's like, you know, does it have to, what does this mean now? You know, what is this? What do I do now? You know, this is painful. How do I how do I turn, like for me, I turned my what I used to have as pain, I turned it into raw hatred, but my raw hatred gave me extreme energy, which I used to push me through like my education, things like that. You know what I mean? But it was a way, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um
It's
Everybody
just
uses some of their
so
fuel different ways, you know. I don't know.
right.
It's just a,
Yeah.
a thing.
So I'll tell you, for whatever reason, I felt like I've had energy to do a lot of things, but it was in the name of keeping my mind busy, so I didn't get hyper fixated on this.
Mm-hmm.
That being said, though, everything that I have done since she died that was not directly related to supporting the family or you know um, whatever the cause was at the moment. Like this past weekend we had all the services. I didn't feel guilty at all about riding to Harley in the massive processional, and I was the number two bike,
Mm.
um, with my sister-in-law being with my uncle in front of me. um, that I didn't feel guilty about that, right? I didn't feel guilty about being out there the entire weekend and whatever was needed. Just dumb thing, cleaning up the yard. You know what I mean? Like uh, helping out with the kids, and there's a couple of babies there, little squishers. So I got a little bit of baby time in too. I'm a total softy when it comes to babies, but I didn't feel bad about any of that stuff. But I felt guilty about leaving, and I feel guilty about working. You know, and I don't know. It's weird, man. Like knowing and because it's so close, and it's unfortunate that people only get to experience this when it's so close to them. um but knowing what my sister-in-law is going through, knowing what my nephews are going through right now, and my other niece, like I feel guilty about having any joy in life while other people are suffering the way that they are, if that makes sense.
Almost like a survivor's
But
remorse or survivor's
yeah,
guilt, whatever.
yeah, whatever
You know
they
what I
call it.
mean?
Even though I was not an even and you know what, that would be more applicable if I was in the vehicle with them,
Mm,
but I wasn't.
yeah.
Um, but it's just realizing, setting expectations for yourself, and realizing what you have to offer to a scenario. I told my wife, because there was a GoFundMe. I said, "Hey, I'm thinking about putting this much money into the GoFundMe just to help out." And she goes, "Babe, I need you to understand that no amount of dollars you throw at this situation are going to bring her back or equate to your love for the family.
Mm-mm.
There's so much more you can do than just throwing money at it." She goes, "And at the end of the day, if there's some expense that's not covered, either through life insurance, the tribe, because like I said, she was native. The GoFundMe's, there's multiple of them out there. If there's something not covered, she goes, then we'll cover the difference, whatever. But don't throw money at it thinking that that's going to equate to you loving the family. Like,
Yeah.
just trying to control what I can control right now. So
Yeah, man. I mean, I would say just, granted, like, I don't know. I think to me, like, money's great, right? But money's easy. What's hard is your
yeah,
time. And granted, I'm not, going and doing what you had to go do to get your head right. Then I think that's 100% makes sense. You know what I'm saying? But you can't run forever, right? So, like, you're home now. You still got a deal, you know? However, uh, having a more lasting impact, at least this is just me. This is the way I look at it. You know, like I said, the doubling down with like your nephews, helping them to process and grieve. They're young. You know what I'm saying? They're young. And if their mom is not able to really be that, you could be that. Hey, how's it going, guys? Just checking in, see how you guys doing. That's it. Even if they don't respond, it's all good. You know, just hey, how's it going? Boom. Once a
yeah,
week or so, and then I think that because money just it doesn't, it's like whatever, who cares, but like this person that just keeps showing up now. Yeah, this happened, like now, Uncle Joe's always like popping up, he's seeing how we're doing, giving us advice, doing these different things, you know and then that's the relationship that grows from that, you know even with sister-in-law, and having these kind of conversations you probably weren't having before. Now the game's changed. And the thing about it, I'm not even talking like right the fuck now neither. I'm talking something that happens. Say it starts ish now, whatever, but then it perpetuates into the future. And this is just the new norm. You know what I mean? Because it's easy now. The thing is about it, it's like this is what's so fucked up with the game, right? And this is why uh that's why I say some folks, you just know this is not genuine. It's just talking, it's just lip service, Because right now everyone's feeling it. How's everyone acting a year from now when the smoke's settled? Anniversary time,
yep,
sure. 2 years from now, the in between time, the trivial bullshit that people are arguing about. What the fuck? What happened to all the love and all that back in the day? You see what I'm saying? It's the
yep.
consistency that I think people recognize and they see that, you know? So that is like
So let
money is
me,
like right the fuck now. Boom. Okay, you pay for the ceremony, but then it shouldn't stay there, end there. You know what I mean?
right.
So I don't know.
So I'll say this to wrap it up, because this has obviously been a very heavily weighted um, discussion. Um, so Siri wrote a letter to herself. She was in the 8th grade. She was a freshman this year in high school. So last year she wrote a letter to herself. I'm gonna try to get this out. Basically, she summarized, and she said, middle school was tough, but I'm really focused, because I'm glad it was hard. She goes, it showed me who I am, right? That I could be tough. She goes, I'm really excited about high school, really excited to play softball. I will make varsity as a freshman. And she did. And and I think and I had a feeling as she was, as this letter was being read, that she was answering questions like, how was middle school? What are your goals in high school? What are your goals beyond high school? Those types of
Mm-hmm.
questions. She goes, my goals are still right now um, to become a nurse like my Aunt Blair, and to join and be in the Air Force like my Uncle Parker. And that, as it got read out loud, that just fucking hit me so hard, because You never know how much you might mean to someone else.
Yeah, big time.
So don't waste any time. And it sounds cliche to say, but fuck, you know my feeling about cliches. Cliches are cliches because they're true.
Absolutely.
You never know how much you mean to someone else, so don't fucking take time for granted.
Yeah, fucking check yourself when you walk out that motherfucking door. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yep.
cause nobody knows who people are dealing with. We all, a lot of shit. You know what I mean? A lot of us are good fakers, man. People are going through some serious shit. You'll see them out there in the world. They're like, hey, how's it going? Oh, yeah. Little do you know, this person's on their last rope. No idea. You know what I'm saying?
You'll
And
never
then
know, man.
if you're caught up in your own shit, are that person that pushes them over the edge. You know what, man? Fuck this shit. And then they go and do whatever, as opposed to about to walk into this world, you don't know who you're going to talk to, who you're going to deal with, who you're going to interact with on any level. Like, you know what? I'm going to check myself, get myself right, get my soul right before I walk out this door. Then you go interact. You could be the person that keeps them from doing whatever they're going to do, or just gives them that little bit of hope, whatever, to being a prick. You know what I'm saying? Something that I do, we've talked about this before. Like, it's sometimes it can be exhausting, especially when you're not like in that mood to be on all the fucking time. You just have to be on, just because you don't want to be like that guy, that girl, whatever. But sometimes it's necessary, man. Put that effort in to make sure that everyone around you is doing all right. To be selfless in that way, it's not easy. Most people are very, very selfish. If they're having a bad day, you're gonna feel that. You're gonna know that very much so, and they can't check
Yeah.
themselves. You know what I'm saying? As opposed to be like, you know what? There's a way to have that kind of release without it being in a way where everyone suffers. You can have a conversation and be like, you know what, fuck, man, like let's chat about it. There's ways to handle it. But I don't know. You just never know what people are going through. You know what I mean? So
No.
don't take nothing personal. It's one of the 4 agreements. Don Miguel Ruiz. Take nothing personal because you don't know what people are going through out there in this world, man. Really don't.
That's it.
So yeah, man.
All right, man. Well, for those of y'all listening, I'm sorry this was such a heavy conversation, but it's a good one. Love your people, take care of your people. Realize when there's, when tragedy strikes at home, um, there's a lot that comes with it. I mean, a lot that comes with it, but be there for each other. Fuck, man. Be. If you've lost somebody, be the person that you imagine they would want you to be.
Yeah. And be patient.
So
Be patient with others. Be patient with yourself. Because that process is going to take, everybody's different. Some people are going to get
it
in
ain't
and out.
overnight,
Yeah.
man.
Some people, it's like years if they ever get out of it. It's not easy to shake that funk, man, to get
Man,
to get back. You know what I mean? Because you've been
it's
altered.
a
You know what I mean? But
it's a different conversation. But my 8-year-old spouted off at my wife last night, and I was like, not. This is not going to end well for you. Like, sort it out.
yeah.
Because I mean, my wife is just anyway. She is so selfless,
Mm-hmm.
that she's been burning the candle at both ends and leaving nothing left for herself.
Mm-hmm.
So in these last couple weeks, all right,
Yeah.
man.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, yeah.
yep.
Take care, man.
You know what?
You know what I mean? Keep see, I don't have nothing over here. I could
So
use something.
I just noticed this bottle I've been sipping on. I don't even know how to say it.
Mm.
It's from Ireland though.
Oh.
Actually, there's a giant S on it.
Mm. Can't really see that. All right.
Right there.
Got you. I'm seeing your dial
Anyway,
up.
anyway, I'm gonna pour one more here. And, here's the Siri.
Scary, man. Yeah, man.